Stone Mountain, Georgia's own natural wonder, sits 16 miles outside Atlanta. While the park is famous for its natural features, various attractions, and stunning view of the surroundings, it is also known as a place of conflict.
Our tax dollars should not be used to commemorate slavery.
You're not offended by it at all?
Not at all. No, I mean, people can use it for bad, people can use it for good. It's just a symbol.
We have emails that range from support to at least one that is absolutely a threat.
Look, you can't blow up Stone Mountain!
The tourist attractions and geological history of the mountain attempt to mask the haunting that the site's Confederate street names, flags, and carving imply. The fate of the carving is uncertain, but to truly get to the heart of the argument, we must consider what Stone Mountain Park actually represents.
I am convinced that the purchase of Stone Mountain and adjacent property by the state and completion of the Confederate Memorial by a competent authority will be of everlasting benefit to present generation and to all future citizens of our state and the entire Southland.
In line with Governor Griffin's state address, the Georgia House passed Bill 946, which authorized the Stone Mountain Memorial Association to manage and operate Stone Mountain as a Confederate memorial. This is part of the larger Lost Cause movement that portrayed the South's secession as a justified effort, a rebellion against an authoritarian northern force that was an enemy of states' rights and personal freedoms. The Stone Mountain carving is a monument to this movement adopted fervishly by white Southerners following the Civil War. The work of art heroically depicts Confederate leaders Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and Jefferson Davis, asserting the honor of the men who led a holy war against the oppressive Union. However, this lost cause narrative has an ulterior motive.
The lost cause interpretation of the war is the Confederate memory of the coming of the war and the progress of the war. And there are several elements that are absolutely central to how former Confederates remembered this conflict. They had to come away from an all-encompassing defeat, a shattering defeat, with some way to keep their honor intact and to hold their heads high. And so they argued first that it hadn't really been about slavery. They knew they were out of step. The Confederacy was the slaveholding Confederacy with the tide of Western civilization on slavery. And so they said it wasn't about slavery, it was about a constitutional principle.
The lost cause serves as a band-aid for the South, a way for them to keep their pride while disguising the real reason why they left, which is made clear in Confederate Vice President Stevens' cornerstone speech.
They rested upon the assumption of the equality of races. This was an error. Our new government is founded upon exactly the opposite ideas. Its foundations are laid, its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and moral condition.
Stone Mountain has served as a symbol of the South's thinly veiled effort to cover up the true cause of the Civil War since the early 20th century. Historian Grace Elizabeth Hale notes that instead of acting as a reminder of the importance of the Civil War, the carving developed into a symbol of the negative impacts of Southern culture. According to Hale, immortalizing the Confederate figures in stone stood as much a reference to the lost cause as the segregation of Washington, D.C., the release of the film Birth of a Nation, and the formation of the Second KKK. Historian Jamie Essex describes the mountain's historical ties to the Klan, noting that Stone Mountain's transformation into a focal point of Southern whiteness was driven by the KKK. Regardless of the clear ties to racism found within the Confederate movement, the lost cause narrative still persists, which highlights the South's collective denial that white supremacy was an important factor in the region's secession. Despite all of this, the past is set in stone and cannot change. However, we can still learn from the mistakes made throughout history.
We need to tell the real story of who erected these monuments and why, as well as the stories of the people they were intended to diminish.
Because we have to look at history, we have to look at how it's affecting our people. And that's my view. As you can see, we are an organization of many faces, and so we always want to consider our total community.
Recalling past injustices inspires an improved future. Years after painful occurrences, the remaining hurt of those impacted and the stories told throughout history allow proponents of the cause to see the error of their ways. The Stone Mountain carving should be viewed not as a celebration of the South, but rather as a reminder that we need to learn from the past. By understanding the actions of our ancestors, we can learn from their mistakes and create a better world for our children. Once we do this as a nation, we will finally be able to live up to the words of Dr. King.
Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.